So before I get into LinkedIn, I did want to highlight for those of you that may be job searching right now, there is an online tool called JobScan, and I wanted to just kind of plug it here first because it's something that I wish I would have known about earlier on in my days of job searching and applying to different jobs, especially those that are more competitive where you're applying online and you may not have a connection to someone that works there. So JobScan is an online tool that allows you to copy and paste your resume content as well as a job description, and it will show you how well the keywords match up between the two. So it tries to help you increase your chances at getting an interview and beating the applicant tracking system, since most big companies don't have a person that's looking at your resume for the first screening. It's usually just the applicant tracking system. So that's the website, jobscan.co, and you're welcome to go there. And it kind of just allows you to kind of see how well the keywords match up. That way you can hopefully boost your interview chances. So LinkedIn, and there will be, as we go through today, depending on time, I have a few videos, but I may not play them all. You'll have access to this full slide deck, so don't worry about taking copious notes, but you can go and watch the videos once we share the slide deck with you, depending on how we do timing wise today. So first, I wanted to ask you all, and I'd welcome you to put your answers in the chat, or I would love if anyone would like to unmute themselves and share, because in Zoomtopia, we'd love to make it as interactive as possible and pretend that we're in the shared room together. But what do you all use LinkedIn for? I'm curious if anyone wants to unmute. Why do you go on LinkedIn? What did you make your profile for? What even entices you to go on LinkedIn? So you're welcome to throw your answers in the chat if anyone wants to share why they use LinkedIn, what they do on there. I'd love for you to unmute and share with us.
I use LinkedIn for networking and job searching.
Okay, wonderful. Thanks, Maddie. Anyone else? Networking and job searching. Yep, that's LinkedIn's bread and butter. Anyone else? What do you go on LinkedIn for? Why do you use it? But initially, I'm assuming most of you at least have a LinkedIn profile, even if you don't go on there very often, even if your profile isn't all the way filled out right now, that's totally fine. Start from where you are. It is the world's largest professional network with over 706 million users in more than 200 countries and territories worldwide. So once again, like Maddie said, it's a professional networking platform, but it also serves as a top job board and an employer and industry research site. So it's a great place to keep up with companies you have interest in working for, seeing different like industry trends, hiring trends of the fields you're working in. There's so much great information on there. And then another thing to think about is it's not just another social media site. So you want to be mindful of first impressions and language choice and really what you're choosing to share on your profile when it comes to your kind of personal and professional brand. So just a few kind of fun, quick trivias for you as well. This is from a recent LinkedIn report, but one question I have for you all, and you're welcome to throw your guesses in the chat. How many times do you think more likely to be viewed on LinkedIn if you have a professional photo? So you're welcome to throw in your guesses here. And the answer is 14 times more likely to be viewed with a professional photo. So just some things to think about. Additionally, I wanted to share a few other kind of LinkedIn stats and highlights for you all to think about just how powerful the platform is. So this is from LinkedIn. They put out a student job hunting handbook, I think about 3 years ago now, but it actually has, I'll share the link to it as well with you all, it has a wealth of information and great great highlights and resources, as well as, sample message templates to send to people that you're connecting with on LinkedIn and things like that. But these were just a few things that I thought were noteworthy. So 91% of recent grads networked during their job search. I'm sure none of you are shocked by that. 80% of positions are filled through referral. I would venture to say it's probably closer to 85% nowadays. 75% of hiring managers say they look at a LinkedIn profile to learn about a candidate's background. 50% of those same hiring managers will actually decide whether or not to move forward with a candidate's application based on their LinkedIn profile. So that's half of those hiring managers. So just something to think about, that you want to make sure, A, you have an online presence, and B, if it is your LinkedIn, that it's positive and speaks to you and your abilities and your talent and what you bring to an organization. That way someone will say, yes, we absolutely want to interview this person. 1 of 5 hiring managers say they've hired someone because of their volunteer experience. So do not discount any volunteer, community work, service work, anything unpaid. That is all valuable experience and work that you've done. that should be shared on your LinkedIn outside of just your normal jobs and things that you've been involved with. 1 of 3 hiring managers are interested in seeing hobbies and co-curricular interests. So especially for, some of the students that may be in this program and with us tonight, as well as recent grads, share all those things that you were involved in while you were at UCLA. And then additionally for our alumni, other things that you do outside of work, professional organizations, associations, or groups you're involved with, different networks, share that on your LinkedIn profile as well. 56% of hiring managers say candidates do not describe their job roles with enough depth and detail on LinkedIn. So you really want to make sure, we'll talk about this a little bit later, but you want to make sure that you give enough information about your experience sections on your profile. So they really get a sense of the skills you gained from that role, what you accomplished, and the type of projects and work you did in those roles. Once again, members get 14 times more profile views on average. Members with school tag in their profile get 10 times more views on average. And members with at least one skill tag get 13 times more views. We're going to skip this video for now because of time, but you can go back and watch it later. It's a nice little helpful video from LinkedIn of just some tips of how to build a strong profile. So now kind of talking a little bit about your profile. First 3 things that recruiters notice. Number 1 is your name. Number 2 is your photo. And then 3rd is your headline under your name. So some of you may notice when you first started your LinkedIn, it will default your current position to default your headline to whatever your current position or job is. So if you are currently a student, it may say student at University of California, Los Angeles. If you are a training and development coordinator at a nonprofit, it will have that. Whatever your current job is, the headline will default to your current job. But I encourage you all to think about tailoring your headline to something a bit more personal and unique to you and the work that you do. So think about, once again, your career and your passions. And so I gave just one example there: UCLA sociology alumni and training and development professional, passionate about community development and access to information. So once again, just an example, but take a look at some other people's LinkedIn profiles to give you sample ideas of how you can structure your headline and what you can include in there to stand out a little bit more. Because if I'm a recruiter and I'm scrolling through a number of LinkedIn profiles, I bet you all can guess how many UCLA alum headlines or student at UCLA headlines will be in my list as I'm scrolling through UCLA folks. But if I see a headline like that, I can get a quick sense of who someone is, what they're about. I see UCLA and I see the area of work they want to go into or that they're currently in. So here's just a few examples I pulled a few people from LinkedIn, so you can see just a mix of different professionals and how they've structured their headlines, and just some things to think about. Once again, even myself, I went and looked at other professionals that I admire or other professionals that are working in higher education to kind of get a sense of, what do I want to include in my headline? What do I want people, a quick snapshot, what do I want them to know about me and the work that I'm doing and or the work that I care about getting involved in. So then from there, on your LinkedIn profile, the summary section is next most important after you've got your name, your photo, and your headline. And your summary should be about 40 words or more. And you really want to think about it. You can structure this any way you'd like. This is just one recommended kind of structure or format I can suggest to you all, which is just kind of a 2 or 3 mini paragraph structure. And the first paragraph is really, what motivates you? What are you passionate about? What are your interests? What are those things that you could talk about for, you could go on a good rant about to friends on the weekend, or how would you spend your time on a Saturday? What type of work do you want to contribute to? And the second paragraph is you being able to quickly kind of highlight or elaborate on some of your key work experience, leadership roles, jobs you've had, internships, research projects, depending on what area of work you're in, and highlight those strengths and skills. So what do you bring to an organization? And then the third mini paragraph, and for some of you, it may not be, something you need to have right now, if you're, currently in a job that you're okay with or feel good about. But the third paragraph would really be like, what's next? If you are looking for that entry-level job, you're looking to change careers or a new job, maybe some of you are thinking about graduate school or different fellowships or Peace Corps, things like that. What's next for you? You also want to think about including keywords for your industry. So looking at job descriptions and making sure that your profile kind of matches up with different keywords of your industry, but making sure you're not just, throwing in all those buzzwords, and you're being intentional about the keywords that are mentioned throughout your profile. You want to focus on career accomplishments, and then your summary is actually a great opportunity for you to showcase your personality. So it is something, the summary section is an area where you can talk about your hobbies and interests and the things you like to do outside of work, along with what you have mentioned in there about your work. But it gives you a chance to let someone get to know you a little bit as a human being versus, or as well as a professional. So a little more LinkedIn trivia. So feel free to get in the chat and get ready to guess for this question. You are blank times more likely to be viewed if you have more than one position listed on your LinkedIn profile. So take a guess at this one, and let's see what answers we have coming in. Okay, 5, 12, 8. Let's see. 12 times. And I think I saw someone in there who guessed 12. So kudos to you. 12 times more likely to be viewed if you have more than one position listed. So talking briefly about your experience section, I won't go too in depth, just to make sure we can get to everything in our short time tonight. But your experience section, you want to make sure you have your specific job title and the organization tagged when you can. So for example, if your company has a LinkedIn page or the organization, make sure that as you're typing it in, sometimes if you type quickly, it may not bring up the list from the tagged options. Make sure you have it tagged if possible, if your company's on there, so that viewers of your profile can click right into the company page to learn more about your organization. Your LinkedIn profile is also not supposed to be your exact replica of your resume full of bullet statements. So I'll show you some examples and I'll share them in the Google Drive of some different individuals, their LinkedIn profiles, of how you can structure your experience sections to, write a few sentences instead of doing your exact bullet statements about what you accomplished there, the type of work you did, projects you worked on. What you really want to think in that description box for each experience is, how are you a better professional as a result of this position? And then once again, great part about LinkedIn versus your paper resume or PDF version of your resume is you can add rich media to your different sections to showcase websites, presentations, PDFs you've worked on, portfolios, photos, photography, websites, blogs, all of that you can link into your different sections. Okay, I think this might be my last LinkedIn trivia question, or there may be one more, but adding your education can help you get up to blank times more messages from recruiters. So adding your education, which if you don't, should have UCLA in your education section with that school tagged, because you all currently are at or graduated from the #1 public university in the country. So that is absolutely an accomplishment in itself. So adding your education, let's see, we have some guesses in here. How many more times? 15, 19, 13, let's see, 17 times, up to 17 times more messages from recruiters with your education in there. Okay, so now we're going to talk a little bit about some of the tools on LinkedIn. I want to highlight a few features on the platform for you all. So the one thing I want to show you, and I'm going to stop sharing because I'm going to go into LinkedIn here, is I want to show you how to create your personalized URL on LinkedIn for those of you that may have not done that yet. So let me share my screen here. Okay, can you all see my LinkedIn newsfeed? Thumbs up or yeah, okay, fabulous. So what you're going to do to create your personalized URL is you go up here to your profile and click View Profile. So on the right-hand side, it says Edit Public Profile and URL. You're going to click this. Okay, so on the right-hand side here, you click Edit Your Custom URL, click the little pencil, and then you can type in first and last name. You can type in first initial, last name, whatever you'd prefer in here to identify yourself. And you can click Save, and it will just tell you, if you click Save, it'll automatically tell you oh, saved. If you happen to be like a John Smith, I always say you're probably gonna have to add a number because there's a lot of John Smiths in the world. So, but yeah, type it in, click Save, and then that'll be all set. And that way you can add your LinkedIn URL to your job application materials and your headers. So at the top of your resume and cover letter, you can just have your name, your phone number, email, and your LinkedIn URL. You don't have to worry about mailing address, or if you want to include city and state, you can. But once again, mailing address is pretty outdated and it's a safety thing. So yeah, so that is the public or the editing your URL. And then now I'm going to show you if we go back here, let's go back to, sorry, it's okay, if I go home, let's see. So I'm on the homepage on LinkedIn, and you all are welcome to pull up LinkedIn if it's easier for you to follow along with me. The easiest way to get to the alumni tool that I want to show you is start to type in like UCLA in the search bar. It's the easiest way. And then what you want to do is you want to make sure you click on the school page. As you can see, the company page is coming up, but you want to make sure it says school. So click on school. And so you're going to go to the school page for UCLA. Computer's moving a bit slow. Okay. On the left-hand side, we scroll down. I'm sure you're all following this fabulous institution. On the left-hand side, click alumni. See it? Okay. So as you can see, there's over 406,000 alumni on LinkedIn. Pretty powerful considering there's over 500,000 alumni across the globe, over 500,000. So a majority are on LinkedIn. And what you can see here is you can sort these alumni by where they live, depending on where you all are in the world. You can sort by where they work, so you can type in specific employers. So if I wanted to find alumni at ESPN, or let's say Warner Media, I could find, type in a specific company, because I'm sure you all have companies and organizations that you would admire, or you'd like to work for. And the other thing I want to show you is if you click this little next, I do want to highlight that. You can sort alumni by industry and what they studied. So for those of you, especially, I think some of our younger alumni, early career alumni that are still kind of figuring out your path, not sure maybe where other UCLA alumni who studied or who graduated with the same degree as you, like what are they doing? Where are they working? You can explore alumni within your specific major that you graduated from, seeing the diversity of what they're doing, as well as those of you who already maybe know that you want to work in, let's say media and communication. You can now look at UCLA alumni who work in media and communication. And so I click that, and then you can see there's 24,000. Then you can start to see even the top employers of where they work. So YouTube, Netflix, NBC, Google, Disney. And if you wanted to, if you were in the Los Angeles area, or if you're in New York City, depending on where you are, you could filter it by location. So you could do that to kind of filter down your pool. And then I can scroll down here and start to see who are some of these alumni. And I can see shared connections, which is great for me because if I see someone, let's say Miss Katharina, whose partnerships communications at Facebook, I'm like, oh my gosh, I would love to talk to her. I have 4 shared connections. I can reach out to Sandy or one of those other 4 people and say, I would love, if you could help connect me to Catherine. I'd love to learn about her role there, how she got to Facebook. Boom, there you go. You're networking. And now you're starting to reach out for those informational interviews and conversations that can really help open doors and lead to opportunities that you may not initially see, but you'd be surprised the amount of opportunities that can come from reaching out and doing things like that. So I encourage you, especially those, once again, like I said, that are exploring, what other fellow alumni have done that graduated with your degree, or maybe in the same industry that you're working in or want to go into. Click in that industry, click in maybe location, and look through these people, look through this list and see just the sheer diversity of the types of roles that they're in, the companies and organizations they work for. I promise you, it'll blow you away. And I encourage you to maybe make a list of the top 5 alumni that you'd love to connect with or reach out to based on some of your research here. So that's the alumni tool. And like I said, once again, location, company, you can type those in. So you can always click add and type in the location. If you click the next, you can add your major, what you studied, and then once again, the industries are here on the left-hand side. So that is the alumni tool. I'm going to just stop sharing here so I can go back to my PowerPoint and make sure I showed you all the important things. And then the other thing I want to mention is, once again, I'll share a little bit more probably next week when we're talking about job search. I'll show you different tools about job search alerts and things like that in LinkedIn. But I'll also include in the slide deck, I have linked the Lambda Alumni Association has a group on LinkedIn. So I encourage you all to join that group on LinkedIn as well to continue your networking and to meet new people through there. And then let me see here. I'm going to turn it over now actually to Kaya to show a quick demo on UCLA One, which is UCLA's own networking platform. It's very different from LinkedIn, so keep that in mind. It is not a UCLA LinkedIn, which initially I think we thought it would be, but it's a different platform, but it has really great features. And similar to that alumni tool I just showed you, Kai is going to show you a little bit of information in the directory of, once again, how you can find other Bruins, especially those from similar identity communities that you can connect with.
Thank you, Katie. Yeah, I would say the biggest things that come to mind for me are that you can search for identity based connections, and also that even though it's a smaller group of people on UCLA One than on LinkedIn, obviously, these are all people who have signed on there specifically to meet other Bruins, and many of whom are open to being mentors to you. So definitely don't push UCLA One aside. Bear with me as I. Okay. Okay. So you are going to get an infographic in the materials that are shared with you for how to do this. So don't feel like you need to write it down. I would just watch me right now and then you can read the infographic later. So it's really, really simple. When you get onto UCLA One, it looks like this, and you're just dropped into the feed, just like most social media stuff. You're just going to want to click directory, which is the one right under feed in the left-hand column. And when you click directory, it'll take you here and it'll show you. So, still a substantial amount of people on here. It's a good amount. So then you have these filters over on the right-hand side, and you're going to want to scroll, and you can search by many, many things, but I'm just going to show you the one field we're looking for today. So if you go down to the one that's called UCLA and you click that, under field of study, degree, graduation year, there's one called communities. And if you click communities, you can select from a lot of really awesome communities that you might want to contact alumni from. And you will just click this little LGBTQIA bar. You don't have to click OK or anything like that. The website will just go ahead and sort for you. And now you can see all of the alums, and it's still a lot of people. So you can go through and you can look for them alphabetically or based on where they are on the map. There's a little map thing here. Or you can look for who has recently joined. And we do this to recruit for the Alumni Association as well, but certainly students who are looking for mentors is a great way to do it. You can do this same thing with your own profile. If you want to indicate that you are LGBTQIA, in the top right-hand corner, there's a little profile bubble, and you just click Edit Profile. My computer's a little slow now. Okay, so, and then when you scroll down to the section that looks like that same little UCLA icon from the search field a second ago. It's the same categories, so I apologize, I already have it indicated, so I don't see what the name of the category is, but I'm pretty sure it's also communities, and you just select LGBTQIA from the field. And that is that.
Perfect. Thanks, Kaya. And like Kaya said, we have the infographic that will be in the Google Drive folders for you all to just remember how to get to that on the directory. Okay, so let me get back to the last few slides I have here. Okay. And that's actually the infographic that Kaya made. So you'll see that in, once again, the slideshow as well as Google Drive. Okay, so now I'm going to talk a little bit about networking in general and how you go about building your network. So once again, I'll let you all watch this video from LinkedIn of just kind of highlighting how you can, some simple things you can do on LinkedIn to connect with your community. This other brief video I actually found on the LinkedIn Facebook page the other day, and it just highlighted some simple ways to use messaging on LinkedIn, and you're actually 4 times more likely to get hired through your network on LinkedIn. So I just thought that was something worth mentioning to you all. So what I really want to highlight is essentially networking leads to working. I actually have a colleague from my previous job who loves to throw around this joke whenever she talks about networking, which is she loves to say, like, what is the opposite of networking? And I remember she asked me one day and I'm like, didn't know, like, it was a joke. And so I was like, I don't know. And she was like, not working. And I like laughed at the time. And also I was like, oh, like, wow, okay. But it really does make you think, like, networking, like, the key is, like, it really does lead to working. And remember that everything you're already doing in life, like, you are already networking, whether it's unintentionally or intentionally. And so the thing I always encourage alumni students to do, especially those that maybe looking for that first full-time role after recently graduating, or those that maybe trying to change industries or job functions, especially our alumni who've been out working for a few years, is, whenever you're meeting someone new or going to different Zoom events and things like something like this, talk about what you're doing, talk about the work you're doing, talk about your interests. How do you spend your time? Are there certain organizations you're involved with? That way, the more you talk about those things, the more you find those like-minded individuals who can help connect you to certain opportunities. And networking is really, it's building professional friendships. That's the way that I like to think of it. Someone told me that a few years ago, and it felt much less intimidating when I thought of it that way, of build, oh, professional friends. Okay, because I know for many of us, obviously, most of us probably haven't not been to a networking event in over 10 months because of COVID. But I always would say, to individuals, for many of us, even the word networking, like it kind of makes my palms sweat just saying the word, like it can trigger different reactions. And, depending on your style of how you like to engage, or you might be more introverted, things like that, it doesn't mean that you're going to networking events 24/7. That's not what networking is. It's really just, going to different things that speak to you and who you are and what you're about, making new connections there. And then once you've met those new people, connect with them on LinkedIn, follow up, say, oh, Kai, it was so great to meet you at the Lambda Launchpad in January. I look forward to keeping in touch, kind of thing, and just send them a connect request. And then now you're connected on LinkedIn, and you can keep up with what they have going on. You can see if they got a new job at this company. That may be then a company you want to work for, and you can follow up and kind of circle back with those people. So maintain that relationship once you have made those initial connections through your networking, or through just you know different events you might be a part of, or groups you're a part of, and networks. And really, the significance, of course, many of you already know this because you have stories of your own, but it can open new doors. It connects you with people who can get you hired. And then it also allows you to connect and meet those people in your industry who can show you kind of tricks of the trade, or assist you in getting access to different resources that you might be helpful for you on your career path. Or hey, you could sign up for this event or go to this conference that would get you the skills that you need. So there's so many benefits that can come out of you taking time to find those individuals that you admire professionally, and starting to build those connections and learn more about their career path. And then once again, we'll have these, but there's a few specific LGBTQ plus networking resources. So different professional and student associations by industry. I think that first one is from the Human Rights Campaign. So, and the Lambda Alumni Association group on LinkedIn. So there's different groups and associations that you can check out, especially for those that maybe want to focusing on a certain industry. So you can check out these websites as well to kind of get a list of those. And then now I would love to ask Kaya or Bobby or Fabian, any of our Lambda leaders, if they would like to share maybe just a brief networking story they have, or how any of you go about, how do you network in your daily life? How do you, throughout your career, how do you maintain your network and meet new people that can potentially add value for you down the line?
I guess I can share first. So thank you, Katie, for so much for highlighting that networking is always happening. I definitely have had a journey with networking, being intimidated, thinking networking had to be at this very special place uh, during certain times and certain attire. And I just want to highlight the career that I'm in now, and even the position that got me here, was because of networking when I was in high school, and I went to join a Dungeons and Dragons game. And there was someone older there who we became friends. They got to know me in high school. Then I went to UCLA. And 12 years later, it was um, there was the economic downturn of 2008, 7, and 6, around there. And I was struggling, and they said, "Hey, I have a position. It's entry level. All you have to do is smart, and you're smart. So come on." And it totally set me on this amazing path of nonprofits and social justice and that and passion. Um, and today, some other ways I do some networking is professional associations. So I'm in fundraising. There's Association of Advancement Services Professional. I go to conferences. So if you get a job and they say, hey, do you want to do a conference? You say yes. You say yes every time because they will fly you out to Chicago or, whoever else, and you go. Or joining a board. So joining boards is an amazing way to network. And Lambda definitely has a board, but there's also other places. So there's a BoardNet USA, which I'll just put it over here, which is a place where nonprofits look for young people as part of their boards. So usually boards will be part of people with this professional experience or later on, but now they're starting to realize we need people who are just starting out their careers and add a unique perspective. And so if you have a passion for animal rights, there's possibly a volunteer board you can join and give your passion there. And so those are the ways that I network today. Oh, even here, I want to put in my LinkedIn URL, which I just updated because of Katie. Feel free to add me. I'm part of, you've networked with me. I want your success. So, feel free to send me a request.
Love it. Yeah, I was going to mention that earlier. Thank you, baby. And you all, once again, now you have access to thinking of all of the individuals in here that you can now add to your LinkedIn network that you can be connected to. And so Fabian and Kaya and Bobby and, other members of the Lambda Alumni Association, myself, we're here to support you throughout the career journey and things like that. So connect with us. We're here to help because we can introduce you to someone in our network. We're more than willing to, help you depending on where you're at. And I think maybe, was there one more individual? Anna, did you want to share a networking story? I think I had mentioned maybe.
Yeah, I can share. I was like, let's see. We're going to try the camera. I have them on a slower connection, so I have to keep my camera off most of the time. So, but I was enjoying Fabian's story. It was great. I loved it. I was like, I would echo that sometimes networking is kind of happenstance. Because as you were sharing, Fabian, it made me think of also related to like conferences that I had an opportunity to work on a project with folks at a different institution. And in that conversation, as we were working on a project, I happened just by chance to mention that I was attending one of the conferences for my professional association. And out of that conversation, I didn't realize this was happening, but I got an email like the next day or something like that from someone else who I didn't know. And it turned out the person in my project mentioned to this other person that I was going to be at the conference. So they invited me to serve on a panel at a conference presentation at the session. And so it was lovely. And so definitely say yes. I said yes. I was like, great. I don't know these people. I'm down with the topic. I'm excited for the professional opportunity. And yeah, and it's great because now I've met a whole other set of folks who were on that panel and who I continue to be connected to, usually by attending, conferences or other professional events. And so it's great because now I've gotten exposure to some other folks who have gotten me connected to other experiences as well. And so sometimes it's kind of happenstance, but part of it is you saying yes to some of the professional opportunities and figure out where are your boundaries and limits around that. And so I would say that, that's one way that I network. And if we're trying to tie it into this LinkedIn conversation, it's one way that I can sometimes stay connected to folks um, who I know maybe just at a professional level. And so it's a nice way to do it. I can't say that LinkedIn has been a common tool in my field, but I'm starting to learn more. So I definitely took some notes, Katie, and I got to update my URL. So definitely gonna do some of that because again, it hasn't been super common in my field. But I'm realizing that more job postings are starting to show up there than they normally had. So I'm hoping to be able to be in alignment with that. Feel free to connect with me too. I don't have my fancy URL updated yet, but feel free to connect.
Love it. Thanks, Anna, so much.
Bobby, do you want me to go first? I'll go. Okay, so I work on I volunteer on such an amazing board with such amazing professionals. So yes, I think it stands to say that definitely get involved on a board and definitely utilize your alumni association. You've worked hard for your degree. And you deserve to utilize this network for the rest of your life. And we always say at our events, you are not just a Bruin until you graduate, you're a Bruin for life. You're part of such an amazing community, and there's so many different ways that you can utilize it. I was trying to think, because Fabian and I work in a similar industry, and so I was like, oh, he's saying all the great points. But I guess what I would add is, yes, first of all, I mean, I work in the nonprofit sector and as a community organizer, and everything we do is networking. So our whole world is networking. But one of the little sneaky things, I think it's sneaky, maybe everybody does it, but that I've done that's been super helpful for me, especially at the beginning of my career, was speaking engagements. So it's a really easy way. So universities, nonprofits, all kinds of organizations will host events, and they need to have panelists. And sometimes they're in a bind and they don't have the right group of panelists. They don't have somebody, or they don't have the money for an honorarium. And people, once they get to a certain point in their career, they're like, you have to pay me for talking. So you can get yourself into those groups. Sometimes even teachers, teachers work very hard, professors work very hard, and they need a day where they have other people come in and talk for part of the class. You can pitch it to a professor of yours. I've been working on this project, or this is my first job and this is what I'm doing. Let people know that you are willing to talk. Again, as my lovely colleague said, say yes. Let people know. You can put it on your LinkedIn that you can speak to these types of topics. And when you go and you speak, it does a number of things. First of all, you get to meet folks who you can network with, who are probably in your field or have something in common with you. Secondly, it makes you seem like you are an expert in a particular field. It gives you a certain credibility that you have been asked to speak on a topic. And thirdly, which is kind of like a tangential one, but I think it's been very important for me, is the questions that you're being asked to articulate on a panel or later on in your career, maybe as like a keynote speaker or whatever. Those questions are really similar to the questions you're going to be asked in an interview. So every time I'm asked to speak, even right now as I'm speaking to you, I'm thinking about who I am, what do I bring to the table, what's my unique experience, and then I find that I'm able to articulate that better in an interview situation, or even in, like, they say like an elevator pitch, right? You just meet someone and you have a second to talk to them about who you are. You've been rehearsing and it's fresh on your mind. So just say yes to speaking engagements. They're a really good way to get your foot in the door and to gain credibility and experience and meet other great people. And there's tons of them at UCLA and beyond.
My networking story happens to come from something that Katie was referencing before about unexpected opportunities. So long story short, I belong to a nonprofit board and volunteer, by the way. And the president at the time said, this community college here in West Los Angeles is looking for advisory board members. You only meet, as an advisory board member, you only meet 3 times a year, and you're there to give information or give details to the dean or the chair of the department to see whether or not that department within that community college has the current courses to meet the expectations of the students. So when they go out to the real world, they have the proper classes and education to compete and be competitive candidates for open positions. So she said, go ahead and send your resume to the dean of that department, and maybe they'll like to see if anybody here's a good fit for an advisor to be an advisory board member. Just send the email and see if she contacts you. So I did what she said, and I figured, why not? I'm going to give back to the community. I'm only going to be there 3 times a year for these meetings that just last no more than 2 hours, and I just pretty much tell them, does their classes, or give my opinion to, do their classes stand the current curriculum with regards to what's out there in the real world? So I send my resume to the chair. She called me back the very next day, and she said, hey, you're on the advisory committee, so our next advisory committee meeting is such and such date. And then she was looking at my resume and she goes, by the way, have you ever thought of teaching? Because I really like your diverse background of not just your education, but your work experience. And since that one point in contact with regards to simply applying for a volunteer position that only meets 3 times a year, that opened a whole new door for me for teaching. And ever since then, I've been a part-time professor teaching for 12 years at various community colleges. So going back to what Katie says, sometimes unexpected networking opportunities arise, and now teaching's like a whole new passion of mine that I've had for over 10 years.
Love it. Love all the stories. And as you can see, I think one theme that came from everyone's stories was being open to opportunities and saying yes to things that are new, from new connections that you meet, because you never know where that can lead to and what may branch off of that one thing that someone says, "Hey, I was thinking about you for this, opportunity." Say yes, try it out. That's how you live and learn and find those things that speak to you and allow you to, kind of fill your cup, both even in the working world, but also outside of work. Um, so I want to wrap it up with just a few quick slides on informational interviews, and then we should have about 5 or so minutes for questions that you all may have. And feel free, if there's some questions that have come up, feel free to put them in the chat. We'll try to get to them, but I'm just going to share my screen with last few slides on informational interviews. So informational interviews, some of you may be familiar with an informational interview. What it really is a career chat for those of you that maybe haven't ever done an informational interview. It's essentially an interview that you're interviewing a professional, someone in a current job that you may have interest in going into or you want to learn more about, to kind of get that day in the life perspective of professionals that you admire. Once again, someone that maybe is in a role that you want to be in someday. And it allows you to ask the questions you have about what does that job really look like, right? We have, I think a lot of the times, especially growing up from media and movies and everything like that, certain jobs look one way on paper or in the movies and social media, and in real life, it looks much different. And so this informational interviews or career chats allow you to really get the inside perspective from someone doing that work. What is most challenging about what you do? What is most rewarding? What is a sample project you've worked on? Like, do those things interest you? And once again, you'll have access to these slides, but I just wanted to highlight, especially for those of you who maybe haven't done any type of informational interview or career chat before. But now that you know how to find people on UCLA One through the directory, like Kaya showed you, or the alumni tool on LinkedIn, now you can, look up some alumni. Like I said, maybe make a list of 3 to 5 that you'd love to reach out to for some type of career chat or informational interview. And go about reaching out to them, whether it's on LinkedIn or if you're able to, maybe on a company website, find their email. You can ask for a max of 30 minutes of their time. I always say, be mindful of time zones for calls and Zoom. Normally, we used to be able to do these in person. You could like get coffee with someone and take them to coffee. Now, of course, you can have your coffee or your Diet Coke on Zoom with them in the morning or in the afternoon. But you want to think about, after you've maybe found those people, looking at their LinkedIn, maybe looking at the company they work for and their career path, you want to prepare, some thoughtful questions. What information do you want to learn from this person? What would you like to know about their job or their career path or how they got there? And so, like I said, make sure you do your research and kind of do your homework in terms of getting a sense of, like I said, from once they graduated from UCLA, what was their first job? How did they move from that job to the next one? And then especially, if you've seen someone's been at a company for a long time, what keeps you at that company? Why do you like working there? All those things that help you learn more about different organizational cultures. Because once again, in thinking about each of you and your identity, we want you to find organizations that allow you to be your authentic self and feel comfortable that you can thrive in those spaces, and that you have, different resource groups and things like that many organizations nowadays, have in place to foster community and support across different identities. So, being able to ask questions like that. And so, once again, you can also ask for recommendations to continue building your network. So if they have, 1 or 2 more people that they recommend you talk to, in the department, you can ask for that. And then you always want to send a quick, kind of thank you and follow up to them of, thank you for taking the time to chat with me, quick little thank you email within 48 hours. If they ask for your resume or anything like that, attach that in your follow-up correspondence. And then once again, after you've made that initial connection, had that informational interview, send them a connect request on LinkedIn. Dear Joe Schmo, it was so great chatting with you about your role at, Hulu. I learned so much about, the skills needed to succeed in a role like yours. I look forward to keeping in touch. Best, Katie. And then send the connect request. And now they're in your network on LinkedIn, and you can somewhat keep in touch. If there's an article that comes up in 2 months that connects back to something you guys discussed in your conversations, send a quick LinkedIn message. Oh, saw this article and thought of you. Hope all is going well. Things like that. That's how you continue to find ways to maintain your connections and your network. And so once again, you'll have all these templates, but I wanted to share just a few connect request message templates with you all, because a lot of the times when I talk to students and alumni about informational interviews, I always get the panic of oh my God, what do I even write in the message? They don't even know me. They're not going to respond to me. How do I even what do I even say in that message? So here's just 3 sample kind of message templates that you can tweak for yourself, make your own. And so this is one example for someone that you've never met. So for example, someone on LinkedIn you found that you have no mutual connections with, and then someone from your past, but maybe someone that you previously worked with, or someone from previous organization. And then you see that they're now at this company that maybe you just applied for a job there. So you now want to reach out, learn more about what's their experience like at that company. And then last is someone you know. So maybe it's someone that's in a different division or department at your current job that you're looking to get over to their department, and you want to learn more about what they're doing there, but it's someone that but just don't know too well, and you want to learn more and connect with them. And like I said, you'll have access. The Student Job Hunting Handbook has a lot of great resources, and it's not just, it has some student stuff, but it has a lot of great just digestible kind of tips, and once again, some different message templates or things to keep in mind as you are networking on LinkedIn. And then I'll stop sharing there. I know we're, just a few minutes before 8, but I know that was, once again, it's a lot of information in a short amount of time. And now I know you all are networking pros and LinkedIn pros. I know you all are going to go, your homework's going to be editing your URL. You're going to update that. Maybe you're going to add some stuff in your experience sections. But if there's any questions that have come up for you throughout our time this evening, I would be happy to, if you're welcome to unmute and ask a question, or you can put it in the chat and I'll be taking a look at the chat there, but happy to answer any questions on LinkedIn, networking, or other things you're curious about. Let's see, and I can start with Jared's question. He was brave and threw it in the chat. So what are your thoughts on cold emailing someone specific you want to talk to versus an alum? Is it just harder because there are less connections that would influence them replying? That's a great question, Jared. So I'm assuming you mean a cold connection in terms of you don't have, maybe they're not a UCLA alum, so that you don't have that kind of initial point of foundation in common. So I would say I definitely say go for it. Absolutely. Because the truth of the matter is, why not? And you never know. I have sent cold emails and messages to individuals that I had zero connection with. This was a few years ago when I was going through a quarter life crisis, and I thought I'd just gone to grad school, and then I thought I wanted to change my industry entirely. I don't know if I want to be in higher ed. So I was going through this crisis. I found these people who worked in community relations for sports, and I went digging on Google, found emails, had zero connections to them on LinkedIn, sent 2 emails, and both of them replied and said, sure, I'd be happy to chat for 30 minutes on the phone. I was shocked. And so all that to say, go for it, 100%. I would say, definitely if there is less connections in common, you may get less of a bite there in your message, but you never know. I'll be honest, when I sent the 2 emails to the 2 individuals working in sports, I'm if they looked me up on LinkedIn, they'd be like, okay, she works in career services at a university. Why does she want to talk to me? I didn't think either one would respond, and both of them replied. So you just never know. And the thing I want to remind you, to both Jared and everyone here, when you're reaching out and sending messages like that to learn from someone and ask for their advice, or just talk to them about their career path, number one, everyone has been where you are. I just want to validate you. Everyone has been in your shoes, and everyone's been where you are, and they know what it feels like to be figuring those things out. And so there's so many people who are willing to help because they were once exactly where you are. So I just want to remind you of that. And B is that, what was I going to say? It just left me. This is what happens when I get my little bullets in my head and then they fly out. But essentially what I'm trying to say is everyone's been there, and they are more than willing to give back because they know what it's like. And you'd be surprised, people that, are just willing to extend a helping hand. So absolutely go for it. The worst that happens, they don't reply, And you know what? No water under the bridge. Like you keep on and search for another message and send another message to someone else.
Katie, can I just echo something? I mean,
Yeah.
especially for everyone who's a student, now they would love to talk to you right now because
Yeah.
people love helping students. And if any of you go on to graduate school, that applies just as much. That they love talking to graduate students. The universe wants to see you succeed, and all you have to do is reach out sometimes. So
Yeah, totally. Yeah, echo all that.
Yeah, I think it's really great that you brought that up, Katie, because I think sometimes people feel like I'm inconveniencing somebody or whatever. And I mean,
Exactly.
clearly all of us are here on Tuesday night with you. And you know, everyone goes through their struggles, and the thing that makes it better is that you can help somebody else to, you know, to navigate their path. You know, you've done all that work, and you want to be able to bestow that knowledge on someone else. And especially, of course, in our community specifically, we really want to help each other out, and we have to help each other out. So never feel like you're inconveniencing anybody.
Yeah, absolutely. And then Mia asked a great question
I
in
have
the chat. Oh, yeah. Sorry, Christina. Did you want to go?
Oh, sure. Thank you so much. How do you, not that there's a simple answer to this, but earlier when you were talking about like having a photo on LinkedIn, I have mine up because I know a lot of the people in my field already. But when I'm working with new professionals, I'm a career advisor. Hi, everyone. It's new. It's a new field for me. But anyway, I know that photos aren't required, and I worry about
Right.
discrimination. And that's why photos aren't required when you apply for jobs, and except for certain industries. How would you coach someone around deciding to do that or not, especially around
Yeah.
racism, I guess, but all the
Yeah.
isms?
Totally. Yeah. And it's a totally valid question. And it's something I always think about when I mention the photo thing of the getting more views on average, because it always comes up with people, you know, sharing like that they want to prevent potential bias and discrimination. And so the two things I would say there is number one, it's an absolute, like Christina said, personal choice. So you know, you are definitely not required to have a photo on your LinkedIn by any means. One thing that I do recommend for those that may be more on the fence about it, and I think had updated my LinkedIn settings to do this, is you can set it where if someone looks at your profile publicly, like if they are not directly connected with you, so Kai and I are obviously connected on LinkedIn now, but prior to me sending a connect request, if she were to pull up my profile, she would not be able to see my photo. So I have it so that outside connections can't see my photo until you actually like I click that I accept our connection. So I do recommend that as a strategy, or just one tool that just can help you, especially if you are in that process, is updating your kind of the privacy. I think it's in privacy settings on LinkedIn, so you can have it that only people who are first degree connections with you can see your photos. So that's just something I think is helpful, because then you have the control of like who you're connecting with, and from there. But once again, I would say, you know, you by no means have to have a photo there. If that is something that you feel strongly about, it is absolutely fine. Everything, I think, as long as your other sections are filled out well and in depth with your summary and things like that, your headline, you will be just fine. And it's not a requirement. It's just, and like I said, update your settings and to what's to make it as comfortable as you'd like it. And then I'll answer Mia's question really quick of how do you build a closer relationship with a mentor? That's a really great question, Mia. So I would say if you have a mentor that may be more, let's say, informal than maybe formal, and you consider that person a mentor, you lean on them for advice and things like that, I would say, you know, like I was mentioning a little bit earlier, depending on, you know, the job you're currently in, or the industry you're in, or where your mentor works, you know, keeping up with different trends, or taking a look at, one of the things I love doing is, especially if I'm keeping up with certain people that might be at a specific company, is going on LinkedIn, go to the company page of where they work, and LinkedIn will show you like recent updates from that company. So it'll be like, you know, Hulu is working on this new TV show, or they've launched a project to connect, you know, film and television students to fellowship programs, or, you know, it'll share recent updates from that company. And that is a great point to get like immediate, just like quick conversation starters for someone that you are connected to there. And so you could reach out and say, hey, Mia, I saw this great new initiative that Hulu is doing or that your company is working on, and I'd love to learn more about it. Or, I'd love to discuss, how is your team involved with this? And, if I can contribute in any way, I'd love to learn more about this project. So find things like easy kind of conversation sparks or starters that connect to their work or some of the things they're involved in, especially once again, if it's not even just their like formal like job, if there's an organization they're a part of and you see that the organization featured your mentor as, oh, member of the month in our organization. Oh, hey, Mia, congratulations. I saw you were member of the month at this organization. Congratulations on that. Would love to catch up with you, when you have some time. So, and then once again, it's not just about that person. So also make sure that you're sharing yourself with that mentor. If you feel comfortable and you've established that relationship with trust and things like that, I would say, if you have updates for your career updates and what's going on in your life, reaching out and with something, hey, for example, New Year is always a great time to kind of catch up with people, right? So, hey, Mia, happy New Year. I hope you're safe and well. I, recently like looking into some career changes and I would love to kind of get your advice and perspective on some of the roles that I'm considering, something like that. And someone's going to take that. Absolutely. Let's get on the phone. How can I help? So, the things that you have going on as well, like make sure you update them because then there's mutual investment in the relationship.
I have a small question.
Yeah.
I've been throwing this question around in my head. It's on what to post to LinkedIn.
Mhm.
So I can be quite a bit of a passionate person. So there is, for example, there's this article. It was Let Malibu Burn, and
Mm.
it was an analysis of how millions are spent protecting the homes in Malibu from wildfires. But there's a part in central LA or near downtown LA that has as equally many fires, these apartment buildings where more people die. The thing is that they're lower income. And so it's just analysis. But that title, Let Malibu Burn, it's a bit inflammatory. But
Yeah.
part of me was like, I'm a value guardian. I am in, nonprofit social. And I was like, what's that measure? Because, and what should you post?
Mhm. Yeah. So yeah, that's a great question. And that one comes up a lot too. And I would say like I'll share my thoughts just on that example that you specifically shared, Fabian, with like the, maybe like kind of maybe the polarizing article title that might, people might have initial reactions to. And then I'll share just like my initial impressions of or thoughts around what to post. But I would say the thing that I've found over time is like, for example, something like that, an article that, obviously has passionate viewpoint or is highlighting some, highlighting significant inequity or just like looking at that situation. Something I've done is number one is taking a look at obviously, right? Like you didn't write that article, like Fabian's name is not attached to that article. That person, whoever by so and so, that article title was from that person. And so something I've done if I share an article that might, make people react a certain way. And once again, if you react a certain way, maybe we don't need to be connected. That's okay. It's up to you. So I say that, at least that's what I say in my head. But something I've done is like, if I share an article like that, I'll say some interesting reflections here on, how California fires impact different environments and, or, different areas of Los Angeles when it comes to, you know, more lower income communities and, who's getting the attention and care that they, some interesting reflections, right? And it's like, you're not saying, Fabian's not saying, oh my God, yeah, let Malibu burn. He's saying some interesting points raised here and some things that we should all take note of when it comes to who is taking care of more. It's the rich people in Malibu versus the more marginalized communities that need more of that support and resources that are letting them suffer more. So you could do it in that way. At least that's something that I've found over time. I've tried to find my voice if I'm commenting on something that I feel passionate about or an article I think is worthy of sharing. And then I think when it comes to posting, I recommend, depending on your industry and things like that, like I like to share articles that helpful articles that impact the work I do. Or so, for example, for me, working in higher education and specifically career development, sharing things like I think 2 weeks ago or so, I shared like a 5 5 job search tips for, going into 2021 and how the landscape looks differently nowadays, right? So I know that people know I'm bringing career services information and career development information as part of being connected to me. I'm going to share, different updates that what is UCLA doing when it comes to what are the initiatives they're working on, so things like that. So if there are articles that speak to kind of the work you're doing or issues you care about, share those and comment and say, I love to find, over time too, like articles I read that I really enjoy, I'll pull a quote or two that really like kind of resonated with me or really, hit a chord, and I'll highlight that, some really interesting reflections in here specifically, and I'll put like a quote at the top from that article that maybe will grab some people's attention. And once again, I'm sure there's plenty of people that I'm connected to that skip right over the stuff I post for sure. But I would say, those things that speak to you and what you're passionate about, things you're involved in, share that with your community and share a sentence or two about like why is this important? Why should you check out this article? Why does it matter? That's at least how that's at least kind of how I structure it or think about it when it comes to posting. But for those of you too that like are writers and or artists and creatives, like share if you or have a blog, share your blog. If you write a new blog post, oh, here's some recent reflections, check out my blog, things like that. If you have a photography website, oh, I went on this road trip and check out some of my latest photography from Joshua Tree. Like share that with your network. And then guess what? Someone needs a photographer for their next project, who they're going to think of, the person that they saw you on their network, beautiful Joshua Tree photos. Hey, would you be willing to take some photos for this project? There you go. Look, networking. There you go. You're doing it. So things like that. And I recognize it's 8:11. Some of you may need to go. You haven't had dinner. I'm not sure where you are in the world. So we have passed the time boundary. If you need to head out, please feel free. Know that there's a follow-up email coming with the Google Drive resources, this full slide deck, which I think has 40 slides. And it seems like a lot, but you can watch those videos and check out some of those resources. Maybe you're going to go back on UCLA, go into the directory like Kaya showed you and find some alumni, or on LinkedIn. So once again, I encourage you, find 3 people on UCLA One or LinkedIn that you'd love to connect with, maybe some professionals you admire in your industry. Update your LinkedIn URL. And then once again, check out all these people that are in here that are now part of your networking community. Connect with us on LinkedIn. So add us to your network and know that we are here to help you. And then if there's no other questions, once again, I'll send in that follow-up email if you haven't RSVP'd for session 3 next week, which I believe is job search and interview strategies. That we'll share the RCP again to make sure you've RCP'd for the session next week on the 26th. And I hope all of you take care and stay well during this time. And Kaya, yes, you had something.
I was just going to say, if you know anyone who's interested, people can still join us for sessions 3 and 4, even if they haven't joined us thus far. And part of the job search, we are going to be looking at how to know if an employer, or how to get a good sense, at least, if an employer is LGBTQ plus friendly. So stick around for that.
Yep.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thanks for coming.